You just finished the workout. Sweat still cooling, heart still going, and you're already reaching for the reward you promised yourself before you started. The episode. The snack. The little I earned this. It feels like the smart move. It's the one habit tip everyone repeats: reward yourself, and the behavior sticks. Give the good dog a treat. And for about 3 weeks, it works. You show up, you do the thing, you collect the treat. Clean little loop. Then one ordinary day the treat isn't there. You're out of episodes, or the snack's gone, or you just forget. And the whole thing drops through the floor. You don't want to do the behavior at all. Not less. Not harder. Gone. Like the reward wasn't paying for the behavior, the reward was the behavior, and the thing you actually wanted was just the cost of admission. Which makes no sense on the surface. A reward is reinforcement. It's supposed to be the glue that fixes a behavior in place. So how does the glue rip the behavior out instead? This is one of the most reliable backfires in all of behavior science, and it has a name. But forget the name for a minute. Because there's one mechanism underneath it, and if you follow it all the way down, reward backfire stops being a surprise and starts being physics. This is habit gravity. Let's follow it down. Start with the only question your brain actually asks about anything you do. Not is this good? Just, where did the good feeling come from? Because your brain is a bookkeeper. Every time something good happens, it writes down the cause. It has to. That ledger is how it decides what to pull you toward tomorrow. So picture a behavior, the run, the practice, the pages, as a small body with its own gravity. Weak at first. But every time you do the thing because doing it is the point, that gravity grows. That growing pull is the whole goal. It's what a habit actually is: a body heavy enough to hold you in orbit without you having to push. You don't force the run. The run's own gravity carries you around. Now watch what a reward does. A reward is a second body, big, bright, and much heavier than the little one, and you tow it in and park it right beside the behavior. Your orbit snaps. Of course it does. You're a body in space, there are now two masses, and one of them is enormous. You start circling the bright one. And your brain, the bookkeeper, writes it down exactly as it looks. The good feeling came from the reward. Credit, the treat. The behavior gets logged as the thing you did to reach it. That single entry is the backfire, in slow motion. The behavior just got demoted. It used to be the destination. Now it's the toll booth in front of the destination. And a toll is a cost. Your brain files costs under a void. So the very thing you were trying to make attractive, you've quietly refiled as an expense. Meanwhile, the behavior's own gravity, the little body that was supposed to grow heavy enough to hold you on its own, sits there. And used. Getting no stronger. Because you're not circling it anymore. You're circling the treat. If that sounds like a metaphor doing too much work, it isn't. This was measured, cleanly, over 50 years ago, and it's held up ever since. Lepper, Green, and Nisbet. 1973, Stanford. They went looking for the one situation where a reward should be completely safe: children doing something they already loved, for free. The activity was drawing with markers. They kept only the kids who, given a free choice, reached for the markers on their own, the ones with real intrinsic pull. Then they split those kids into 3 groups. Group 1 was told up front, draw, and you'll get a fancy certificate, a good player award, gold seal, ribbon, and all. Do the thing, get the prize. The deal was named in advance. Group 2 got the exact same certificate, but as a surprise, handed over afterward, with no deal made beforehand. Same reward. No contract. Group 3 drew, and got nothing. No certificate, no deal, no mention of a reward at all. Just the markers. Then everyone went back to normal life for a couple of weeks. And later came the real test. The markers were quietly set out again during free play, with no reward on the table at all, and researchers watched who reached for them. The kids who'd been promised the award in advance, Group 1, now drew about half as much as they used to. Their own pull had dropped through the floor. The surprise group and the no reward group? They kept drawing just as much as before. Untouched. Same pull they walked in with. Read that again, because it's the whole thing. The reward didn't lower how much they liked drawing while it was there. It lowered how much they liked drawing after it was gone. And it was the announced deal that did the damage. Same gold seal, same ribbon, promised in advance, it drained the pull, handed over as a surprise, it did nothing. The problem was never the treat. It was the contract. That's the effect, stated plainly: pay a person for something they'd have done for free, and you can turn the free thing into work that now needs paying for. Psychologists call it overjustification. You gave the behavior too many reasons, and the wrong one won. So why does the brain do something this obviously self-defeating? Because from where the brain sits, it isn't self-defeating at all. It's just good accounting. Your reward system runs on one job: track where the payoff comes from and steer you back to the source. It doesn't care which source. It follows the biggest, most reliable signal it can find. Park a bright, reliable treat at the end of a behavior, and you've handed the system an easy answer. The payoff is the treat. Every time. So it stops looking any deeper. And once the treat is the answer, the brain starts doing what any good bookkeeper does with a cost. It looks for a way to cut it. It notices something dangerous. The behavior is the expensive part. The treat is the part you actually want. And the treat is right there. So why keep paying the toll? That's the quiet second leak. A reward doesn't just refile the behavior as a cost. It teaches your brain to hunt for the shortcut that skips the behavior and keeps the prize. Now add the part everyone forgets. Rewards don't hold their value. The treat that lit you up in week 1 barely registers by week 6. Your brain adjusts to it and quietly moves the baseline. So to get the same push, you need a bigger treat. Then a bigger one. You've quietly started running a bribe economy, and bribe economies only ever inflate. And every round of that makes the little body, the behavior's own gravity, even less relevant. Nobody's circling it. Nobody's feeding it. It's just the toll booth in front of an ever more expensive prize. Compare that to the behavior you never rewarded, the one you just did, plainly, because it was the point. That little body has been quietly gaining mass this whole time. One behavior is carried by its own growing gravity, free, forever. The other is propped up by a rented mass that gets heavier to rent every month. Same person. Two completely different engines. And rented mass has one property that owned mass doesn't. It can be repossessed. Which brings us to the day the bill comes due. Because the reward always stops. Always. Maybe it dims until it's not a treat anymore. Maybe life interrupts the supply. Maybe you just get tired of administering your own bribes. And on the day it stops, you find out what was actually holding you in orbit. If it was the treat and by now it was, the orbit has nothing left to hold it. You fly off. Not because you're weak. Because the thing you were circling just switched off, and the little body that should have caught you was never allowed to grow heavy enough to. This is the part that makes reward backfire worse than simply doing nothing. If you'd never rewarded the behavior at all, its own gravity would be small, but real, and yours, and growing. Instead, you spent those weeks circling the treat. So the behavior's gravity isn't small, it's roughly zero, because it got none of the passes it needed. You didn't just fail to build it. You spent the time that would have built it somewhere else. And there's a scar on top. The behavior is now filed in your ledger as a cost you used to get paid to endure. So the pull isn't at zero, it's below it. The behavior actively repels you now. That's the full shape of the backfire. Not that the reward failed to help. That it quietly spent your durable, free, internal pull, left you a rented one in its place, and then took the rental back. Think of a seedling raised entirely under a bright grow lamp. It looks great. Green, upright, thriving. Right up until the lamp goes off. It never grew roots for real sun, because it never had to reach. The lamp did the reaching for it. Cut the lamp and it doesn't slowly adapt, it collapses, because the whole plant was built around a light that was never going to last. Your behavior under a reward is that seedling. It looks like a habit. It performs like a habit. But it never grew the roots that make a habit hold, and the lamp was always temporary. So flip the opening scene inside out. The streak that died the day the treat stopped, that wasn't your discipline failing. There was never much discipline in that loop to begin with. The treat was doing the work the whole time, and treats don't stay. You didn't lose a habit. You reached the end of a rental you didn't know you'd signed. And the reason it felt like a personal failure is that nobody told you the reward was borrowing against the behavior. It looked like help. It felt like help. It was a loan. None of this means rewards are evil. A reward is a fine tool for the right job, a one-time push, a genuinely unpleasant task you'll never learn to love, getting yourself over a single hard threshold. The rule is only about which behaviors you attach it to. Never bribe the thing you want to keep for life. Bribes are for behaviors you plan to abandon the moment the job is done. For anything you want to become permanent and free, the run, the pages, the practice, you protect its own gravity. And protecting it comes down to one specific move. Take the reward off it. Do the behavior, and when you finish, don't reach for the treat you would have reached for. Let the finish line be bare. It'll feel like something's missing, the first few times. That empty feeling is exactly the behavior's own gravity, small and quiet, finally getting a turn to pull on you. And in place of the treat, do one small thing that costs nothing. The moment you finish, name what you just did in the plainest possible terms. That was a run. I'm someone who runs now. That isn't a reward. It's the opposite. It points the good feeling back at the behavior instead of off at a treat, it credits the little body, so the little body gains mass. If you want to mark a real milestone, mark it the safe way, the way that did no damage in the study. After the fact. Unannounced. Never as a deal you struck before you started. The instant you tell yourself, do the thing, and then you get the thing, you've signed the contract, and the contract is the part that drains the pull. Not the treat. The if-then. So the whole lever is small enough to start tomorrow. Pick the one behavior you most want to still be doing in a year. Find the treat you've quietly bolted onto the end of it. And unbolt it. Then just do the behavior, plainly, for a while, and let it feel a little flat. Flat is fine. Flat is the little body doing its slow work of getting heavier while nothing bright is there to drown it out. One ordinary week, you'll notice you did the thing without deciding to, and without collecting anything for it. No treat waiting, and you went anyway. That's the little body, finally heavy enough to hold you on its own. So the next time someone tells you to reward yourself into a habit, you'll know what that actually does. It doesn't build the pull. It rents you a bigger one and quietly builds the one you were trying to grow. Keep the reward for the jobs you want to end. The habit you want to keep, leave it unpaid, and let it get heavy.